Good morning, or good afternoon, or possibly even good evening. Wherever you are, we hope you are all safe and well. Welcome to our discussion on hiring and retention today. We appreciate you joining us. My name is Tim Connor, and I have the distinct pleasure of leading our human resources team here at Associated Food Stores.
Hey, good morning. This is Jane Hill. I have the pleasure of not only working with Tim, but supporting the talent management efforts at Associated Food Stores. So we're looking forward to spending some time with you today.
We thought it might be interesting to at least start this discussion with kind of a picture of the current unemployment situation related to where it was maybe a year ago before COVID-19 hit and the pandemic started to impact and disrupt our world. You can see on the left side of this slide the various unemployment rates that were in each state in which we operate. A low in Utah of 2.4, upwards of 3.7 in Wyoming, all of which were well below 5%, which is by most economists considered to be full employment. What's interesting about this slide to me right now is just how many of our states still continue to be below the 5% threshold. Really, there's only two states, Nevada and Colorado, that are above that. Those two states have probably been hit more by COVID, particularly in leisure, travel, and some of those types of gaming would be impacted by that because those industries are still being disrupted to this day. But by and large, we're still seeing a very, very competitive environment. It's estimated that the impact to our economy and jobs in particular was a little over 22 million jobs were lost over the initial frame of the COVID-19 pandemic. It's estimated that we recovered about 12 million of those positions, and you'll hear estimates now between 9.5 and 10 million jobs still open. Unemployment peaked in April of 20 at around 15% or just shy of that. And we've now worked our way back down to around 6.2 as of February. Job gains have been a little bit all over the board. December of 2020 actually saw a contraction of about 140,000 jobs that we lost at that time frame. January, we gained a few back. And then February was actually a bit of a surprise. And it probably makes sense that we gained back 379,000 jobs as states like California and some others started to reopen restaurants, get back into kind of the service and the hospitality business, which was the biggest sector of the labor market that was impacted by COVID-19 and continues to be impacted to this day. For us, it's still difficult to find workers. I'm sure that you're experiencing this as well, even though there is high unemployment across the United States. That has not been as much of a factor here in the Intermountain area. Many people, I think, are still thinking that they might be called back, and so they're maybe not actively entering to the job market and out looking. Others are maybe still concerned about going back into the environment and working where they may have exposure. Certainly, schools being closed, childcare facilities being closed. Many people are not able to work. They've got to take care of their kids or they got to go do homeschooling. And hopefully, as the vaccine starts to roll out and schools start to come open, we'll see more people enter back into the workplace. The other thing is, and it was just this week that the president signed the COVID-19 relief bill again, that there's going to be supplemental unemployment benefits of $300 a week at the federal level. And so some lower paid workers may actually find it better to be on unemployment, frankly. And so we're going to see these dynamics, still here for a while, and something that we just need to be aware of. One of the biggest changes and impacts, and it's probably going to be a long-term impact, is that of remote work. While many of our jobs are in person, we've got to be in the store, we got to be in the warehouse, we got to be doing things physically at our location. Many jobs are able to work remotely through technology. And I think more importantly here is that the employee's desire for remote work is really high. I think people are possibly going to be holding out to come back in the labor market, potentially looking for that opportunity to find a job where I can work at home at least some of the time. And so I think it's something that we need to be aware of as people gravitate in and out. Our ability to be flexible is going to be important going forward. Women as a group were negatively impacted by the pandemic more than most. Again, school closures, daycare. Women have tended to have primary responsibilities for childcare. That's our history. And while those trends have changed over time, that was just part of the reality. And then the other point here is that with the impact of hospitality, leisure, and service industries, that sector tends to be hourly paid, maybe on the lower end of the pay scale, and they have been hugely impacted by the pandemic and continue to be impacted by it. One advantage to us is that the grocery business, supermarket business, has been elevated, in my opinion, at this time by the pandemic. Our team members were viewed as essential workers. I believe the public in general has been very appreciative of the efforts of our industry to make sure there's food on the shelves, that people get toilet paper, paper towels, whatever they couldn't get, hand sanitizer, to the point that even there was a declaration of Supermarket Employee Day on February 22nd of this year. It also has come with some incremental costs. Thankfully, we've had the business to maybe offset some of those incremental costs, but things like hero pay or hazard pay, as well as COVID-19 paid sick leave. We don't want people coming to work sick, and so we put in benefits to make sure that they could stay home and take care of themselves, and didn't feel like they had to come in. What we're seeing now is kind of interesting, though. Some areas of the country, most notably California, and you've probably seen this in the news, there are municipalities now that are mandating hero pay. City of Long Beach, and then most recently this week, Los Angeles, basically put in place mandatory hero pay, I believe, of $4 an hour on top of base wages, to which some retailers have responded in those communities by announcing store closures that were marginal or underperforming, and the additional $4 an hour was going to basically put them in a tipping point where they can no longer operate those stores. So it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out. One other kind of related dynamic is the whole conversation around minimum wage, and it's something that really needs to be on our radar. Our view on this, and we've consulted with some of our resources, and I think the consensus is it's not a matter of if this is going to happen, it's going to be a matter of when it happens and in what form it takes. What we're seeing is it's likely that there will be a phased-in approach over time. The most recent approach was to phase it in, I think, over a 4-year step-up increase. But it's likely that something will happen. The state of Utah had 2 bills introduced in this most recent session, one of which basically mirrored the $15 an hour federal proposal. Another one was a more rational approach, and probably one that's fairly realistic and will likely be resurfaced again in the coming years. So it's something that we need to be looking at and be prepared for, and considering economies or things that we can do differently, self-checkout lanes, those kinds of things to maybe impact our need for labor. There's going to continue to be a general shift in the workforce. This is not largely surprising. Generations are moving in and out. Baby boomers are retiring. Some may have actually moved their retirement up as a result of COVID. Some may extend their working careers as a result of COVID. But the needs and the wants, the desires of the different generations are something we need to be in tune with. And at the bottom line is it's really just treating each of our team members, as individuals, and tailoring, our efforts around what their needs are, and how we can maybe be more flexible, with them on that. Job searching is almost entirely, online today. We use our smartphones, our iPads, our computers for just about anything. Not only that, but it's very quick and easy to do salary searches and find out what prevailing pay is, or at least what they think it is out there. Sometimes it's misinformation, but it's very easy to go out and look for jobs. And so I think we need to be in tune with that, and Jane will talk more about that a little bit later on. We've also seen the advent of the gig workforce. This really started, with things like Uber or Lyft, where I can be my own boss. But that is now extended out, and there are mobile apps that facilitate the ability to go out and look for jobs that are 1 day, 2 day, 3 days, don't require a lot of training. But it's something that I can choose and pick when I want to work, what I want to do, and what I'm willing to accept as far as pay. So it's just something that is shifting. The marketplace is changing on an everyday basis. One of the things that we have to be cognizant of, I guess, is that we can't recruit our way out of this situation. It's certainly something that we need to be doing and using the most effective technology, but we believe our focus really needs to be on retaining our team members, elevating them, training them, getting them more efficient and effective and good at their jobs. And that's really what's going to help us the most in the current employment market and for the foreseeable future. This slide is a depiction of some material that we actually borrowed from a company called Mercer. Mercer is a global consulting company, and they are consulting all things HR and have some brilliant people working for them. And you'll probably notice that this resembles quite a bit around Maslow's hierarchy of needs. And so it is appropriate, I think, as we talk about, the needs of our team members and our ability to retain and keep them and develop them. The pyramid is an appropriate, depiction of that. And maybe just drawing attention to each of the various layers. At the base of the pyramid, these are those basic needs. This is really where we compete in the marketplace. Compensation and benefits is just the ticket to get an employee in our door. We have to be relevant. We have to be competitive in those areas. And like I said earlier, it's easy for people to go out and see what pay is out in our marketplace. And so, we need to be competitive in our marketplace, or people will be easy to go out there and either replace that or find other options. One additional component here that we are looking at very closely is that of environment. How do I feel when I come to work? Do I feel welcome? Do I feel like I can get along with my coworkers? Do I have a good relationship with my boss? Or do I walk in the door and I feel anxious and I feel tension and anxiety? That will drive team members away from a work environment. And so we need to try to have as best we can that cohesive environment that people enjoy coming to work, enjoy what they do, enjoy that interaction with our guests in our stores. As we elevate up into the pyramid and we take a look at those functional needs, these are elements where we can differentiate ourselves. We can look at again, the industry that we are in. There are career growth. There is career opportunity for our team members. We have components around education, and Jane, I believe, will talk about the retail management certificate that's available through the Western Association of Food Chains. Also, the ability to have an environment where we can be flexible for the well-being of our team, that they feel like we care about them legitimately and that we are willing to work with them around their life's needs. Can I work my flexible schedule around the needs of my children or my family? As we get up into the top of the pyramid, this is really where those emotional connections take place. And I believe our industry has a window of opportunity here where the world and our communities are looking to the supermarket employee and the grocer differently today than maybe they did a year or two ago. That we've had the ability, and the independent retailers always connected well with our communities. And I think that's even been driven higher at this point in time because we're dealing with the pandemic. And so we have a real ability to differentiate ourselves and say that we have meaning. We can provide a purposeful and a meaningful career to our team members and allow them the opportunity to achieve, a good living, a good career, a good growth, and have that service element that makes a connection with the community that we are also passionate about. So with that, I'm going to turn the rest of the time to Jane. Thank you.
I'd like to continue the discussion and talk about how the levels of this pyramid can help us consider different ways that we can compete in our markets, that we can do things that help to differentiate us, and move up to the top of the pyramid to where we can really connect and drive loyalty with our employees. So we want to be able to meet team member needs at each level of this pyramid. And what I'll be talking about is some tactical approaches that we can consider to do that. So at the base of the pyramid, safety is a basic requirement. And we know that it will be important that we continue to remain vigilant with our safety protocols. But as we sort of enter into this new stage of the pandemic, people still want to know what we're doing to keep them safe. And so whether that's applicants that are considering us as a place of employment, or our team members who want to feel safe at work, or guests who shop with us, consider how you can continue to educate and communicate all of your safety efforts. And as you consider communication, empathy is really more important than ever. And that may be something that we don't often think about. But applicants and employees, they really want to connect with your company. If you go do a search and you look at websites and career pages, you'll likely notice that messaging is really evolving, and it's moving from communication that's solely focused on products and services and really moving to messaging that puts people first. And so you may see this as messaging around how organizations support or give back to their communities, or why a particular organization, what they do is important. Could be sustainability efforts, how they support local, all the things they offer to their employees, just to name a few. But the common thread is that it's really centered around people. And another opportunity related to people is diversity, equality, and inclusion. And now more than ever, people are expecting companies to play a role in creating a more inclusive and equitable society. And it is such a big topic, and we certainly shouldn't feel that we're responsible to have all the answers. But you may be thinking about what efforts you can make when it comes to diversity and inclusion as it relates to your workforce. And so a couple of ways to start thinking about this with what you may consider. First, does your workforce mirror the community that you serve? And along with that, does your candidate pool mirror your community? And so continuing on with another consideration at the base of the pyramid is really how we attract and compete for talent. And there have definitely been a few significant trends that have emerged as a result of COVID-19. Tim mentioned that almost all recruiting is digital. And with that, the branding that we have and the engagement that we have with potential employees is more important than ever, because they are out there looking at your online brand and reputation. A matter of fact, more than 75% of job seekers, they look online and they consider an employer's brand before they actually apply for a job. So a couple of things to consider with your online presence. One is, are you actively managing your online brand through your web pages, through any social sites? And oftentimes we may not think that we have much of an online presence, but you do, and people are looking at it. So, take a look at online job boards, social media. Those are really an opportunity for you to broaden your recruiting reach and your candidate pools. And one of the most effective ways that we've found to do that is to ensure that your job postings land on Indeed.com. So for Associated Food Stores, if we look back last year to 2020, 59% of all AFS applicants reported that they saw the job they applied for on Indeed. So Indeed is our number one source of applicants, and it's our number one source for hires. And a matter of fact, Indeed is combined represents more than all of the other sources. So something definitely for you to consider. A lot of applicant tracking systems will push job postings directly to Indeed, but no worries if you're not using an applicant tracking system, you can go out there and post directly on the Indeed site. So as we think about this digital experience, having really timely and streamlined communication has become more critical than ever. And one platform that we've launched is called Text Apply. And what this does is it allows candidates to text a keyword like Macy's to a short code. And after they text, they receive a link to the jobs that are available at a particular store location. And this is just awesome because it makes it quick, it makes it easy, it makes it really timely for an applicant to be able to apply. Within a matter of seconds, they can actually be engaged in a job application. Another thing is that leveraging your existing team to recruit is something that can be very successful. The data shows that when individuals are referred by someone who already works for the company, they tend to just stay longer and oftentimes be a better fit for that organization. And you may consider even offering a referral incentive to team members that refer a friend or family member that gets hired at your location to just kind of perpetuate and get some motion on employee referrals for your stores. Another strategy may be to recruit 14 and 15-year-old employees. You can do this for courtesy clerk, ice cream clerk, certain allowable positions. And the great thing about this is these younger team members, they're often really excited and eager to work, and they can help fill staffing needs for shorter shifts that really fall between your peak business hours. So if you're considering this approach, you have to make sure that you follow the applicable national and local labor laws and do your research. But again, another avenue that you can look at to fill some of those staffing needs. And Tim mentioned that the importance of having the experience there for your new hires and your employees, with that being welcoming. And many companies really have realized the importance of focusing on the hiring and onboarding. So one way to think about this is to consider having a dedicated resource that can help you to optimize a very consistent experience throughout that hiring process. We had an opportunity in the last year or so. ARO has created what they call a team support specialist position in every store. And that team member assists with recruiting, interviewing, hiring, orientation and onboarding, training, that whole initial experience. And having that dedicated resource, and then also really having this focused efforts on onboarding and training, we really believe has been a positive factor in reducing turnover. Our data at Associated has shown that if we can keep employees and get them kind of past that first 90 days, that the opportunity to retain them increases greatly. Let's talk a little about compensation, because it's definitely a critical element at the base of the pyramid. It's important that we have a fair and competitive offering for team members to want to come to work for us and also to stay with us. So this means it's important to have a systematic approach to not only ensure that we're competitive in our wage and benefit offerings, but also that we're fair with our team members and with our practices. ARO had an opportunity last year to evaluate the market rate of pay for all of the retail positions. A minimum rate of pay for each position was then established, and then we made adjustments to make sure that we were consistent. This type of process helps to ensure internal equity and consistency. The important thing is to define your strategy that will allow you to be competitive in your particular market area, and then establish the parameters to make sure that you're fair with your teams and that you're compliant. Also related to compensation and benefit offerings, be aware of what competitors in your market area might be doing. So for example, we are seeing in the Salt Lake, Wasatch Front and Back area that there is an increase in on-demand pay that's offered by more and more organizations. Now, we've mentioned the rapid growth in gig work. As a matter of fact, more than a quarter of all workers participate in the gig economy in some capacity. It's surprising to consider that 1 in 4 workers are engaged in gig work. But this has really prompted a lot of companies to consider how they can adapt their practices to better accommodate on-demand work and pay. Associated Food Stores will soon be launching Daily Pay, which is a platform that allows employees to have access to their earned pay when they need it. So for example, in between paydays. We're really excited about this new benefit, and we anticipate that it will help us in attracting talent to our organization and also in retaining our team members by providing an added benefit that really supports their financial well-being and can be useful to them in their personal lives. All right, I'd like to talk now about the second level of the pyramid, which relates to how we can really differentiate ourselves and provide a differentiated experience for our team members. So there's been a lot of research, and you'll hear a lot about what matters most to employees. But one factor that has consistently risen in importance is work-life balance. Flexibility in work schedules is one way that we can promote work-life balance. And it's one of those things that can be a big factor in employee satisfaction and retention. So it's worth the time to step back and consider ways that you can provide flexibility in work schedules. So are there perhaps opportunities to be more flexible with hours and shifts? Take a minute to talk to new hires when you are hiring them, or your existing employees, to find out, how can we better make work for them? You may also consider a shift in your full-time and part-time ratios as a way to provide an opportunity to be more flexible. So for example, this could mean posting 2 or more part-time positions to fill a full-time vacancy. And then lastly, be really mindful of overtime demands. Sometimes we may assume that people want overtime, but many team members have worked a lot of hours during the last year and have had additional personal or family responsibilities on top of that. And the reality is not all candidates want 40 hours a week. So take an effort to try and understand the needs of your team, and then adjust your practices where it's possible to really encourage work-life balance, and let your team members know that that is something that's important to you and to your organization. Another way to differentiate is to create an environment within your store or your business where people really feel like they are supported in their growth and development. There are definitely rewarding and meaningful job and career opportunities within our stores and our industries. So look for opportunities to personally reach out to team members about those opportunities, because sometimes the personal conversations between a leader and a team member about growth and about career pathing, they have the biggest impact in helping team members to begin to see their job as maybe a potential career path. And then think about training. Do you have opportunities to enhance your training? And there's potentially a couple different ways to think about this. One is what is referred to as upskilling, which is really just teaching employees new skills to become better in their current role. So maybe somebody works in a position, but they haven't ever had an opportunity to be involved in writing the schedule, or in writing an order, or some of the merchandising, or maybe there's an opportunity for them to be involved in training others. Anything that might give them something additional to help them become better and learn new skills. Then there's also the idea of reskilling, which is training employees to do a different job. So cross-training would be an example of that. Another thing that we've found to be effective is looking at positions that are hard to fill, maybe like deli, and knowing it's easier to fill a cashier position. So finding maybe a cashier that is interested in working in the deli, it gives them a new opportunity, new things to learn, and then we backfill that cashier position. So just another way to think about reskilling. And then beyond training, consider education and investing in leadership development to advance both the hard skills and soft skills. And as we think about training, it also encourages me to think about not only that, but education and leadership development, and what are we doing to really advance people beyond just the training aspect of it. And so something that I'm excited to talk about is a kind of a practical tool that Associated Foods has out there to support you and your teams in leadership development efforts. And this tool is called Learning Leaders. And, the thought around this is we know that the best leaders are those that are continually learning, because much of learning today is really, it's self-directed and it's done on your own. And so knowing that and knowing that people aren't attending, a multi-day class as much anymore, how can we provide a tool that gives, quick bite-sized chunks of learning that are really applicable and can help individuals sharpen their leadership skills, or they can be used to help develop your team. So for example, you may choose to use the Learning Leaders tool to conduct a training in your store leadership meetings using Learning Leaders as your guide. So each edition of this Learning Leaders contains a couple things. There's a learning resource. Most often that's a video, but it could be a suggested book, a course, an article. But those resources can be watched or read in about 15 minutes. So they're kind of a quick hit. And then it also contains what we call a tools section. And that is a section to really help leaders apply the learning or lead discussions with their teams if you're using it for more of a training tool. And the whole goal of Learning Leaders is to help an individual or a team learn about the topic and then create some actionable steps to focus on, work on those, developing your skills for about 30 days, and then continue on to another edition of Learning Leaders. So this tool is already out on StoreLink right now. If you click under the Education Resource section, you will see a tab that's called Education and Development. And from there, you'll just see a little accordion that says Learning Leaders that you can click on. It's a small library right now, and it's something that we expand on and add new resources there about every month. Another resource that is available to our members to help develop their employees is available through Formal Education and something that we call the Retail Management Certificate. And this is really a fantastic program. It is 8 core college level courses, and these are available online so anybody can participate. And by participating in this program, students earn 24 college credits, which is about equal toward a year of school toward a degree. Students that participate, if your organization runs this program through Associated Food Stores, there is a subsidy available through the Western Association of Food Chains. You can reach out to me personally and I can give you the details on this. But this program is just such an awesome opportunity to invest in your team and prepare them for an advancement. And we have seen that not only does this give our students just great skills, but the feeling that they get when we're investing in this way, the loyalty, the confidence, there's just been a lot of really great benefits. So formal education is another way to invest in your team. So as we wrap up, I want to talk about the third and perhaps the most important level of the pyramid. At this level, Tim talked about this is where we really make emotional connections with our team members and we unite around purpose, and we're there really helping our team achieve their aspirations. So I'd like to launch into a short video. This is only about 1.5 minutes, and it's really focused on this idea of creating a sense of purpose.
In the 1960s, or so the story goes, Kennedy was visiting NASA, and he was on a tour of the facility, and not too far away, he saw a man walking down the hall with a broom and a bucket. He stopped the tour and he goes up to the man and he says, "Excuse me, what do you do here?" And the man looks at him and he says, "Sir, I helped put a man on the moon." And you hear about that story and it sort of makes you wonder, where does that sense of purpose come from? Where somebody that is the janitor of an organization, somebody that sweeps the floors, somebody that's responsible for restocking paper towels in the restroom, where does that type of a sense of purpose come from where he feels like he helps put a man on the moon? And it also makes you wonder, how do we create that type of a sense of purpose inside of our organizations? There is this long debate between where does a sense of purpose actually come from? Is it something that the organization is supposed to provide for you, or is it something that the employee is supposed to bring with them to work? And there have been all sorts of debates and arguments and studies and research around this, but I think that the solution is that it's partially the organization and partially you, partially the employee. I think the organization has the responsibility to connect what the employee does, what the people there do, with the impact that they are having. So whether you are a janitor, whether you are a marketing manager or a sales professional, the organization should help you understand how the work you are doing is impacting the organization, how it's impacting the community, how it's impacting the world. They need to tell stories. They need to help you feel like you belong. They need to give you those opportunities to grow and learn and advance.
Okay, so you'll notice in that video that it mentioned the importance of connecting what our employees do with the real impact that they have. And I'm going to circle back to where we started talking about this pyramid, that there's likely never been a better time for us to continue to build bond with our teams. It's so easy right now to have a very deep sense of gratitude for what our team members do and really for what we all do. And the last year has really demonstrated the importance of our industry to the communities we serve at a critical time in our nation's history. And our teams truly are essential. As independent grocers, we do have a cause, and our teams make a positive impact. What we do matters. So that wraps up the information that we have to share with you today. I know Tim and I both really appreciate the opportunity that we've had to share some information, some ideas with you today. Please feel free to reach out to Tim or myself if we can be of service or assist you in any way. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.